So some cool mission info about my mission. So I got to serve it in basically both ends of the spectrum, mostly in my mission in terms of Spanish-speaking missionaries. So like I said, I started out in Woodstock. That's about an hour and a half northwest of the city of Chicago. Just lots of suburbs. It's really hard to find Hispanics out there. You know, we had to go to a lot of apartment complexes, tons and tons of tracting of just the apartment complexes, and just being creative. You know, that's probably the biggest thing that you need to do in an area like that. It's just how can you find, you know, those Hispanics? You know, where are they? And it was a very big area, just car. You know, just about 15. The cities are about 15 minutes apart there. And then I went to my second area, and it's suburbs still, but it takes you about 20 minutes, depending on traffic, to get to the actual city of Chicago. And I could see the skyline and everything from my area. So that's pretty cool. Same thing, you know, you're in suburbs, so people a lot more spread out. And so you had to do a lot of tracking. Again, working with members is key in areas like that, getting close with them, and just working your butt off, you know, and just not being afraid of the work. And then my third area, I went to the city of Chicago, so I got closer, but I went to the north side of Chicago. And there, you know, I lived in a Hispanic neighborhood. There are Hispanics everywhere. I didn't see, you know, a Caucasian man for the longest time, except for obviously like district meetings with your other missionaries, but I'm not counting them. But just strangers, like I rarely saw Caucasian people when I lived in the city of Chicago, because they put the Spanish missionaries in the Spanish neighborhoods. And I loved it. You know, I didn't have to go track that much anymore. I just got to walk out on the block. You know, as soon as I walked out from my house or where I was staying, there's just Hispanics walking by and start talking. And I loved that area so much. The work was amazing there. Lots of walking. You can bike as well, but we had a car as well. And then my other area, I went from the north side of Chicago. My next area, I went to the south side of Chicago, and which is completely different than the north side of Chicago. And then in the south side of Chicago, it's not as nice. It's a lot of the bad things that you hear about Chicago happen in the south side of Chicago, like all the killings, all the murders, a lot of those things happen in the south side of Chicago. And so I was kind of nervous, but I was excited. Tons of Hispanics down there, same thing, just walk out, see Hispanics everywhere. Love that area as well. That area was pure bike. I lost like 15 pounds in 3 months there, just from biking so much in the heat and sweating all the time. And then my last area, I actually got to go to downtown Chicago. And I started in the YSA, English speaking there. So that was interesting, you know, huge culture shock, just because I went from being used to about being surrounded by Hispanics 24/7 for about a year to going back to just going to extremely nice neighborhoods, being in downtown Chicago, which you really never went to except for P days as a Spanish missionary. It was just crazy, but I loved it so much, and I learned so much there in that area. But I was on both ends of the spectrum, so I literally started in the sticks, cornfields, cows, to ending my mission in downtown Chicago. I absolutely loved it there. You know, in downtown Chicago, there's some very famous art places to visit. There's a place called the Cloud Gate, which is also known as the bean, the big shiny silver bean that you see, you know, when you look up Chicago online, for like pictures and stuff like that. Tons of art museums to go visit. The Bears Stadium is huge. Soldier Field is awesome. There's this building called the Sears Tower, which is now known as the Willis Tower there. It's the tallest building in Chicago, if I remember right. I think it's the tallest building in the the tallest or second tallest building in all of the U.S. and second or third in the entire world. And there's this thing you can do. You can pay about $20 to go to the very top of Chicago, or excuse me, go to the very top of the Willis Tower and see all of Chicago. And it's so flat. There are no mountains in sight in Chicago. It's just, you go to the very top of that building, you see the huge lake, Lake Michigan, and then you just see buildings and just open field. Like it, you can see it's Indiana from there, which is crazy. So that's a pretty cool thing to do down there as well. Being a Spanish-speaking missionary as well, the majority of the people that I interacted with and that I taught on my mission were Catholic. And so teaching Catholics, you just learn to love it. I loved teaching them. Probably the biggest challenge that I had over my mission was church attendance. Getting people to church was just difficult, because people always confess or say that they believe in God, which is awesome, and everyone that I taught had a belief in God. There's very few instances where I taught people that didn't, even believe in God. But the best part about being speaking Spanish is everyone he speaks to believes in God, and they're very open about it. And so it was just very fun, teaching them. And there's lots of similarities, but for them it's very traditional, to be Catholic, and it's kind of hard for them to make that change. But just through love, through consistency, through the Spirit, the Lord has ways. Then they always come along. But definitely the biggest challenge I had was getting people to church. Like I said, they always say that they believe in God, but it's always hard to get them to act, to get them to keep commitments, to get them just to read a little bit, just things like that. It could be a challenge sometimes, but that was probably the biggest thing that I encountered was just, they're very flaky. Sometimes the Hispanic culture or the Catholics, they can be a little flaky, and so it's just kind of hard to get those set appointments and just get them to church. It takes a lot of faith, and I understand that, but it was fun. It was a good challenge. Also, the missionary work. Biggest advice that I can give you for missionary work in Chicago is, it's a good question, but I would say to just love every minute of it and to love the people. Once you love the people, once you love the culture, and just love your mission, it is so much fun. I loved every second of my mission. Once you have the love for the people and you teach them, you can feel God's love towards them, and that's when the Spirit gets very powerful. That's when you have very powerful lessons. That's when they can really feel God's love, is through your love for them. That would be the biggest missionary advice that I can give you is just to love. Love everyone on the street, see them as a child of God, see them through the eyes of Christ, and it's going to change you, but more importantly, it's going to help you be the best tool that Heavenly Father needs you to be. And as I love the people, I felt like I had so much success on my mission, not through baptisms necessarily, but through just inviting people to come to Christ. I love every second of my mission, and I love the people so much, and I still love the Hispanic culture to this day, and I miss it so much. It's going to change your life, and obviously working hard. Bottom line, don't be one of those missionaries that just sits in the apartment and just doesn't work hard. You can't get anything accomplished without you stepping outside and talking and opening up your mouth. But your trainer and your mission president will help you develop those skills if you're nervous about it. Not everyone's naturally, confident, naturally outgoing, but the Lord uses your talents, and He'll help you develop the talents that you need to become that missionary. Also, cool thing about our mission is that we do have a temple in our mission, but it kind of depends on where you're at, where you're serving, if it's close or not, and if you have permission from the mission president to go. But you get to go once every 3 months. I'm not sure if it's changed, but when I was there, that's what it was. And every now and then you have like a Christmas temple trip or an Easter temple trip or something, and you get together as a zone and you get to go to the temple. So that's nice. And if it's near you, it's awesome. You take investigators there. I did that on my mission. So when we got baptized, we took them to the temple to see. We had a lesson with them in the visitor center. Or there's no visitor center there, but we took them to a waiting room in the temple, and we were able to teach them a lesson there, and it was amazing. Definitely do that. Get your investigators to the temple. That's about it. I mean, right now I know that in Chicago they just got done building and constructing a building downtown. So when I was there, I served in the YSA ward that met in downtown Chicago, but it was in a school. Just because there wasn't any buildings nearby for the members to go to. So there's a YSA ward, and then there was two family wards that met in that school building. So it's kind of weird going to church that's in like a elementary school or middle school. I can't remember what it was, but it's just what the church had there. So loved it. But now they just built a huge building downtown Chicago. So that's where all those wards are going to meet. And as far as I understand, they're going to be expanding or not expanding, but I guess making more wards available to go there. So there's some big plans for Chicago right now. Unfortunately, I'm not going to be there for it, but I'm going to go back and visit, that ward one day in that building. So that's pretty exciting for Chicago.